hungriest man in pro wrestling, Megabyte Ronnie Hartman.
Hey, Eric, thanks for having me on. I appreciate that introduction, brother.
Of course, man. Of course, it's a special guest because it's a unique wrestler we have today. Let's start with the first question. Let's start with what made you want to pursue pro wrestling.
Really, pro wrestling's been my favorite thing, like my entire life. I think I discovered it when I was like 3 or 4 years old, and ever since then, I've been obsessed with it. I went through phases in my life where I didn't watch it as much as I used to, but I never stopped watching it. And basically, what happened is that I was in a firefight in Afghanistan. Basically, meaning I was getting shot at, and I was thinking, well, fuck, if I get shot and I die right here, I'll never get the chance to be a professional wrestler. And I think having that thought go through my head in that situation was what really made me decide that like this is something that I have to pursue.
That's amazing. That it's so unique. During life or death, the first thing that came to mind was becoming a pro wrestler. That was the dream.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was single at the time and 24 years old, so I'm sure there's some better thoughts that could have went through my head, like, what will my mom think? But I couldn't really control what was going through my head. So
Of course. Well, I'm happy that the journey that took you to where you are now. Following your dreams. Having it both ways. It's great. It's great to see that everything came good to you. Everything came back around.
I appreciate it.
Of course. So let's talk about your first match, because wanting to be a wrestler, being a fan, it takes a lot in you. But then when you actually lace up the boots, get in the ring, and take the bump, it feels like a whole other level. So tell me your first ever match. Tell me how you remember your first match.
My first ever match was with my trainer, actually, Brandon Thurston, who runs the Wrestlenomics podcast and does all the economic stuff. It was for a federation who it was like July 1st or something like that. It was right before the Nathan's hot dog eating contest, the big ESPN hot dog eating contest. And I think this local company wanted me to be on there because I was going to be on ESPN a couple of days. So they set up this gimmick match with me versus Brandon. And it's crazy, dude. I had so much nerves going through my body and stuff like that. I'm sitting there at the curtain and some guy's like, "Hey kid, what's your music?" And I'm like, "Music? What do you want from me?" I'm trying to focus on my match. So they just played some Metallica song and I went out there and luckily for me, I wrestled Brandon Thurston, who was my trainer. He lit me up a couple of times. I learned some lessons that day and on to the next one pretty much.
All right, that's awesome. And you brought up the Nathan's eating contest. Tell me when you found out you have a gift. Tell me when you found out you have this incredible gift that not many of us share.
It was actually in Afghanistan as well. Now that I'm thinking about it, I learned a lot about myself in Afghanistan. Basically, what happened was I was eating all the food, and my cook suggested, they were like, "Hey, have you ever seen that hot dog eating contest on ESPN?" And I said, "Yeah, I've seen it." And they said, "You should figure out how to get into that." And I was like, "All right, cool. I'll look into it." So what it is that they have 12 qualifiers around the United States in 12 different cities. The top man and top woman from each qualifier goes on to the big contest on the 4th of July, which is like the Super Bowl of competitive eating. So it just so happened to be when we got back from Afghanistan, I was stationed in Georgia. The day we started our vacation, our post-deployment vacation, there's also a qualifier in Atlanta, Georgia. So I drove up there. I did that contest. I finished second. I signed a contract with Major League Eating, and the rest is history, really.
That's amazing. And I love how it's in your it's in your gimmick. I love how you put your talent as your gimmick in wrestling, which is basically you yourself. So tell me how you decided from your first match to being a guy who just, I don't even know my music, I don't know what I want to do, to now being Megabyte Ronnie. Tell me how one changed the other.
Well, I really owe a lot of that to my friend Puff, who also debuted on AEW this past week. And I when I first started training for wrestling and I first started doing wrestling, I came out in this all black plain gear, and I didn't want anything to do with competitive eating being part of my wrestling character. because I didn't think people would take me seriously if I incorporated that into my character. And it was really Puff, and I think Kevin Blackwood and Daniel Garcia, two guys who were on Dark this past 2 weeks, who really hit into me. Like, I have such a unique story and a unique upbringing and just a unique background that it didn't make any sense for my character to be too much different from who I actually am. Mm-hmm. They say that like the best characters are just yourself turned up to 11, but really Megabyte Ronnie is just me turned up to 10.5. It's not far from the truth.
Well, it's amazing because the minute you made your, AEW debut, I saw so many articles. I saw so many people commenting me saying, "Hey, get him on the podcast, get him to speak." And it's like an amount of people were so excited to have you as yourself. As you said, just 10.5, And I think that's the greatest thing about it, where you don't have to show people a different side of you. You are the way you are in the ring. Just that's who you are. That's your character. That's your story. And it's amazing. How was, since we're talking about it, how was the AEW call up? I'm curious how AEW, during the pandemic, all of that, they found you, they called you up, and you managed to wrestle for them.
Well, it all started actually because I was on Hot Ones, the game show, with my wife, the one that was on True TV, and we didn't win any money. And then AEW called me, or not AEW, but Hot Ones, the game show, called me up during the pandemic and would say, like, "Hey, we're going to have this redemption series with people who didn't win. They're going to match me up with a celebrity, and it's going to be on YouTube." And I was like, "Yeah, that's cool, guys. But, like, honestly, I don't know a lot about pop culture. Like, my music's really outdated. I listen to stuff that was pretty much came out when I was in high school. I don't really watch movies or TV shows. I really just watch wrestling and sports and play video games. So I've never been the type of person to worship celebrities or anything like that. So I'm just not into that stuff." And they were like, "All right, cool." And then they asked me if I had ever seen it's like four people. It's like a sketch comedy show that's on True TV.
Impractical Jokers.
Yeah, they asked me if I had seen Impractical Jokers, and I was like, no. So, like, the next couple of days, the next, like, 2 or 3 days, I'm watching, like, 10 episodes of Impractical Jokers a day trying to learn these guys. And, it comes time to do the game show, and it's me and Sean Evans, and then they light up Cody Rhodes on my monitor, and I about flipped out, man, because I was not expecting that, like, at all. And at the end of that episode, Cody Rhodes was like, "Hey, we really want to bring you down to Jacksonville so you can hang out backstage and see how everything is." He never once mentioned to me about wrestling, right? So it was just, "Hey, come hang out." So it comes to be in fruition for me to go down to Jacksonville. I was supposed to originally go down there August 27th, but they pushed it back a week or two. Mm-hmm. And at the same time that happened, they brought in 3 other Buffalo guys. But I'm pretty sure AEW was not tracking that I was with these guys. Like, these 3 guys are 3 of my best friends and 3 people that I trained with. I don't think they were tracking that we were together because they didn't put us in the same hotel. They didn't put us on the same flight or anything like that. So they were going down there. I was going down there. Of course, I brought my wrestling gear with me because they always tell you to bring your wrestling gear no matter where you go. And so we show up to the venue. Well, let's backtrack. The night before we showed up to the venue, we get blood tested for COVID. I definitely want to put that out there because of everything that's happening right now. They definitely blood test you for COVID. You're not going anywhere without getting tested for COVID. And then the next day when we showed up for the tapings, there's a big poster with all the matches that are on there, and we're taping 2 Dynamites and 2 Darks in 2 days. So it's a fuck ton of matches. And I'm looking down this card, and I get the match 18, which is the last match of the day. And there it is, fucking Megabyte Ronnie versus Brian Cage. And I was like, well, here we go, baby. It's time to eat.
I gotta talk to you, though, about this, because I feel I like to bring up, like, fate. I like to bring up moments in time. What was the chances of you getting to win Hot Ones? What was the chances of you getting to be picked to be on the show?
Yeah, that's crazy, man. And that's why I put out this tweet, I think like the day before I went down to AEW. And I was like, I'm going to make the most of this moment because you never know how many of these things you get in life, right? So here I am at 29 years old. Actually, I'm 31 now. Here I am at 31 years old. Life has thrown me some fucking curveballs, that's for sure. And I got hot, man. I hit a couple out of the park. I went on Hot Ones, and I think I was really entertaining on that. And then they wanted to bring me back, and I did Hot Ones with Cody Rhodes, and I think that episode was really good. Unfortunately, they had to edit me saying Rhodes like 15 times out of that episode, so it doesn't sound that good. But if they could have used, or if they wanted to use the word Rhodes, it would have sounded way better. I impressed Cody by doing that, and then, I went down to AEW, and I got to be honest with you, I hate to toot my own horn a little bit, but like when I went down there, I had like 800 followers on Twitter. I had like no followers on Instagram. My YouTube was trash. I've picked up like 3,000 Twitter followers. I've picked up like 500 YouTube subscribers. Like I can't think of any other guy who got brought in as an enhancement talent for Dark who made the most of their opportunity like I did in one 5-minute match.
No, yeah, it's definitely true because I'm a big wrestling fan, especially in the independent scene. I like to scout for the new talent, the talent that, I'll be watching when I'm in my 30s, that kind of talent. And it's like, you were definitely one of the names that multiple people were like, you got to check him out, you got to do this. And then the minute I do it, I find out you're on AEW, and I'm like, wait, I just saw this guy on BTE just a couple days ago. Now he's wrestling. Like, there was so much, and I didn't even know your character, so I just analyzed you a whole maybe till midnight. Like, I took a whole night, just learned so much about you. And I didn't even realize, I watched that Cody Rhodes episode, the Hot Ones, like 3 or 4 times, and I didn't even realize that was you until I rewatched it. Like, it's amazing. But I love the story. I love that you said that. Even after that one, buffalo eating contest, Cody was like, you should come to AEW. You should do. How crazy was it that an executive producer like him, normally knowing any other companies, would never go, hey, you were on this show, so we're going to put you on a flight. We're going to get you to the show. He, out of nowhere, after goes, you're going to be on the show. We're going to see what we could do. How was that feeling? Did you feel like that was like a joke, or was he kidding? Or did you seriously take it like, oh, okay, after this one episode, I get to go to AEW? Like, think about that.
I'm going to be honest with you. I'm probably going to sound a little egotistical here, but it's not egotistical. I'm really just confident in my ability. So, like, when Cody Rhodes said that to me and we hung up the phone, I started screaming, and my wife ran downstairs, and she's like, what's going on? I was like, I'm going to get signed. Like, I thought after Hot Ones that I was going to get signed. For whatever reason, it was never promised to me that I was going to get a match. And then when I got the call and they told me they were bringing me down there, it was the same thought. It's like, I'm going to get signed. And then I had my match, and it's after my match now, and I still think I'm going to get signed. So, like, I'm really just trying to, like, I would just like to snowball this momentum because I'm 31 years old. My window is closing. I like to say that I think I can honestly be this generation's DDP. Like, Here I am getting started real late. But the same thing with DDP, people were invested in his character because he had such a backstory and they had seen him before. And it's like me, like, this stuff keeps lining up. Like, you've seen me on Hot Ones, you've seen me eating cake, and now you've seen me wrestle. And it's like, people are getting with me because they're hearing my story, and they're really getting behind me. So I'm just trying to keep that going, because the worst is when you don't keep that going and you just let that momentum stop. I am completely on everything right now. I am producing as much YouTube content as I can. I am on Twitter as much as I possibly can. I hate Twitter with a freaking passion, but I'm out there doing it because I have to. I'm on Instagram. Like, I am doing my part to try and keep this going.
And I appreciate that. That's what us, the fans, that's what we can only ask for, to see that you're interested and see that, this is what you want and it's what you want to follow. And I'm sure AEW notices that. I remember literally right after your match, there was so many messages. I bet you know yourself how many people tagged you and stuff. How many people, you were probably like the number one thing talking about on AEW Dark, Even if you didn't get the victory, people were still talking about you on it, which is huge. But now, since you said it, like, you believe you get signed, you believe this, I am curious. Who are your dream opponents? Who do you need to face before you retire?
I think the story with me and Cody can really go far. Like I would have to think that with us starting together on Hot Ones and stuff like that, I think there's enough there that we could tell a really interesting story. So he's definitely the top person on my list that I would like to wrestle. To be honest with you, going into it, Brian Cage would have probably been on my top 3. So I've already gotten to knock that one out. I would like to get in there with Jon Moxley because the type of wrestling that I like and enjoy is wrestling that tells a story, and I think he's very good at telling a story. I would like the tag team with Puff some too, and if they brought me and Puff in there with the tag team, Butcher and the Blade would be an absolute dream match of ours because we were kind of trained by those guys and we know those guys. So I guess that would be my top 3 opponents.
All right, awesome. I forgot to mention this, and I have to mention this. Did Cody know your background when he did the Hot Ones thing? Did he know what your background was? Did he know that you were an eater and that this was like an unfair advantage?
No, he knew I was a professional eater. I am not sure if he was aware that I was a professional wrestler because there's a lot of conversation during that episode that was cut out where we were just on the first question and Cody Rhodes was like, "Hey man, you got a really good physique." And I was like, "Yeah, I appreciate that." I was like, "I don't know if you know this or not, but I'm actually a wrestler too." And he's like, "Oh, get out of here." And he's like, "Well, how many matches have you had?" And I was like, at that time it's 17. So I was like, I've only had 17 matches. And he's like, "Well, how long have you been training?" And I was like a year and a half, at that point. So he learned a lot about me during that episode that you don't see that they didn't put on YouTube or they didn't put on the show or anything like that. Unfortunately, when I was down there in Jacksonville, he was off there. He wasn't there. He was filming that show he's got coming out. I'm not sure what kind of show. I think it's a talent show or whatever.
Yeah. It's the extreme talent show, yeah.
Yeah, he was off filming that, so I would have definitely liked to go and talk to him and tell him how much I appreciate him and stuff like that and appreciate him bringing me down there. But I don't know. I did, being the elite and the Bucks were really impressed with the cake eating bit. Luckily for me, man, I got to do that cake eating bit, and that was the day before dark. So I feel like it took people a little bit to put 2 and 2 together once I came out to the ring.
It did. It took me a minute because I didn't understand what it was. I watched BTE and I never understood because they gave you your own spotlight at first. You walked in the hallway by yourself and then you met Brandon Cutler. So I was like, there's a reason why they gave you your own spotlight at first. And then the next day I'm literally watching you on my TV. I'm like, oh wait, I just saw him on BTE just a couple days. And then I already knew what you're good at because I already saw. At first I was like, wait, is this the bit him eating cake really fast? And then I was like, oh, he's a professional eater. That makes sense. And then your gimmick shows it too with your trunks and everything, with the big mouth and everything. That all makes sense.
Yeah, that did so much for me. I think having that cake eating bit the night before, I've been told before that my character or my gimmick, I hate to say gimmick because it's just me. I read all the time people online saying, oh, he should change his gimmick. He should be more serious and stuff like that. I'm like, you guys want me to just change the last 10, 15 years of my life? I can't really change my gimmick because my gimmick is just me. So
of course,
I'm not going to go be like a freaking repairman or policeman or I'm not there's nothing for me to change.
Lumberjack.
Yeah. So having that cake eating bit allowed people to digest me a little bit. The day before, they're like, I don't know who this guy is, but I had a cutoff sleeveless shirt on, so I was showing the guns. Here I am eating 2 whole cakes in 4 minutes, and it allowed people to get that going. So when they saw me the next day, it may not have clicked right away, but like you said, you see the mouth on my trunks, you see the mouth on the Titantron, you see I have a hot dog scarf, I have a hot dog fanny pack, the big spot's me crawling over and whipping out the hot dog, and it's like, hot dogs, what are hot dogs known for? The competitive eating contest on 4th. So it just starts going, and I don't think all this would have made any sense without that cake eating bit. Mm-hmm. And I just came out there, had that same match, did the people's hot dog. I think people would have been a lot more confused without that cake eating bit. So I'm forever grateful that they had me on Being the Elite.
Also, you brought it up, and it was like one of the biggest. I don't know. I don't know if you know what a meme is. Even I don't know what a meme was at first, and then I realized, and then someone explained to me what a meme is. There was a huge meme soon as after your match. A meme is like a joke type of thing that people bring up of the hot dog, of that one hot dog at the end of your match, and that was like the stealer. And I was like, people are talking about a straight up hot dog. Your gimmick, your actual character made everyone just blow their minds that wrestling could get to this level, that it can get to a serious level of literally being yourself. You know, there's no. It was insane. It was insane how just your character made everyone go crazy. That was like the highlight of Dark.
Right, because you couldn't even come up with this in a random generator on like WWE video game, right? Like you can't just throw Army Vet, Professional Eater, Professional Wrestler. You just can't throw those three together without it actually happening. So I'm just lucky that I have a backstory like that allows people to get invested into me. And I felt like it was very important for me in that match to also wrestle completely seriously up until that moment, because people want to call me a comedy gimmick, but I mean, let's be real here. I'm 6'2", 230 pounds. Like, I'm a bad motherfucker. Like,
no, of course,
I will mess some people up. So it's like I had to show that I had that capability before I did any comical stuff. But I had to do that people's hot dog because in my head I had one shot to make a moment, and there's nothing that I could have did more to make a moment than that. So
Of course, and I love the fact that your debut match was with Brian Cage, because like I said, you're a big guy, you're a tough guy. It would just look weird if you got beat by someone a lot smaller and shorter. I like the fact that they had the perfect. I hope to see you versus a lot of guys, but I still feel like if you do versus the young guys, the match should add up. I think the match should be a lot better. But I do think the fact that you're in that heavyweight level, that's a lot. That's a lot of things that AEW has a lot of amazing talent, but the heavyweight is a little short. They have a little bit of a shrine. They have Cage, they have Archer, Moxley's a heavyweight, and then that's a lot of people. But I feel like you.
Who's bigger than me than Cage or Archer, right? If they sign me today, I'm automatically, maybe Butcher, but if they sign me today, I'm top 5 biggest guys they have in the company. So
Exactly. That's why you would be a perfect addition. You would, there would be a lot of fun stuff, and I hope to see more stuff, and I hope to see what AW will, do with you, and what your character could bring into the table more and more.
Well, here's the cool thing about that is that I have not had the opportunity a lot in my career, and that may have actually been the first time in my career that I got to wrestle somebody that was bigger than me. I've never went into a match really being the size underdog, so it is kind of it's kind of new, but it felt natural. I can't tell you how many times on the indie scenes I've had to wrestle somebody who weighs 100 pounds less than me and try to make them strong, and I have no problem with doing that because that's what wrestling is. But I have a lot of people who are casual viewers of wrestling. It's really hard for them to digest that, right? It's really hard for them to digest a 20-year-old kid who weighs 120 pounds getting close to fighting me. Because I have these people come to my wrestling shows all the time. And I think a lot of people on the internet forget that, like, these fans exist. And not only do these fans exist, these fans are probably the majority of the fans that are watching the product. The guys who are just flipping the channel, or they just like wrestling, but they don't read anything on message boards. There's a lot of people left that size does matter in that aspect. And that's why I'm working out all the time, because like this is what I want to do. If I was not wrestling, I wouldn't probably work out. I have a great relationship. I don't need to look like I do. I look the way I do for wrestling.
And I want to bring this up because this is a transformation story that a lot of people would need to hear, and it would be great to have advice. You're a professional eater, yet you look like you are in the best shape of your life. How is that? To explain to me more about how you eat, like you can literally become a huge man, but you are still by far the toughest man in the industry.
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, I'm very lucky that at age 19 I decided to join the United States Army because I was not a good person until that moment. And thankfully I joined the Army and they instilled good morals in me, and they also instilled discipline in me. And I am just extremely disciplined. I've been working out for about 10 or 11 years now, so this shit doesn't happen overnight. People always message me asking for advice or tips or stuff like that. And I tell them, there's no magic pill. There's no easy way to do this. And you could probably even get here faster than I can because I just bang my head against the wall until eventually that motherfucker breaks, right? So like I may mess up and have some cheat meals, I may have too many cheat meals one week or too many cheat meals next month, but I'm going to work out twice a day. I'm going to eventually, hit a good week where I eat nothing but chicken salad and stuff like that and rice. You see me do these competitive eating things and you think I have to eat like that all the time, but I don't. I eat a very healthy diet. I eat a lot of fruit. I eat a lot of vegetables. I eat pretty much chicken breast every other day. My diet is really boring. I eat like the same 5 meals over and over, except when I do these videos or when I do a contest or something like that. So basically, it's like I'm building myself a deficit because I know that I'm about to eat a shit ton, right? So like if a contest is coming up that month, I'm dieting really hard, and then I eat the extremely hard meal or the extremely cheap meal, and it just kind of balances itself out.
Is that the secret? Is that the secret to how you eat?
Yeah.
You starve yourself until it's the contest?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, like the week of the contest, I'll dip really low and like eat 1,700 calories a day or something like that. And for me, at the size I am right now, I typically eat like 3,500 calories a day. So for me to drop down to 1,700 calories for a week, that builds up it's like almost 2,000 calories a day. So, in a week, that's 14,000 calories that I've just saved by dieting really hard that week. And then, I eat 14,000 calories in a contest, and boom, it just kind of equals out.
All right, awesome, interesting. All right. Well, I gotta ask you this, and it's your choice to answer because right now you're in talks with AEW, but before AEW called
let's be honest here. There's no talks. I've come back from AEW and I have not heard a single word from them. So there's okay. I'm an independent wrestler. They brought me in for one date and I did that date and here we are now. Like there's no like back and forth between us right now.
All right, no problem. I apologize if I didn't mean to give false information.
All good.
All right. So then this makes it easier for me then. Before AEW did come along and you still want to be a wrestler, you still want to do this, where would you have wanted to go? There are so many amazing promotions. There's MLW, Ring of Honor, Impact Wrestling, New Japan Pro Wrestling. Your character, your story would be phenomenal for New Japan, in my opinion. They have so many amazing guys that Cole Cabana went there, Yano. There's so many amazing characters there. Tell me, where you would have or WWE, where would you have wanted to originally end up at?
I got proposed this question on a Reddit AMA that I did after the Cody Rhodes Hot Ones thing. So it wasn't even close to me going down to AEW. And someone asked this very question, and I said I would like to if I could wind up in a promotion, I'd like to wind up in New Japan because one, I feel like for me, the biggest thing I need is reps, and the biggest thing I need to improve on is the stuff that happens in between the ropes, right? I honestly believe that wrestling, 75% of it is shit that happens before you get to the ring, right? Mm-hmm. I think only about 25% of it is really what happens inside that ring. Mm-hmm. Now, there's people that argue, there's people who are super, super big into like 5-star matches and stuff like that. But I think as long as you're telling a story and people are invested, you don't have to do a bunch of spots. You don't have to be a super athletic guy. You can tell a good story. I mean, fuck, look at the Eddie Kingston match this past week. Eddie Kingston isn't doing backflips and stuff like that, but damn, were you not invested in him based on one promo when he told you, he's been in this business and he didn't sell himself out like Moxley. He basically told a whole story in one promo, and by the time that match got there at the end of the night, you were so into it. But to get back to the question, yeah, originally it was New Japan, but after going down to AEW and seeing how that happens and seeing that camaraderie and that brotherhood that that company has, that's something that I've been missing since I've gotten out of the Army.
Mm-hmm.
They really feel like a brotherhood and like a teamwork aspect down there. And just being down there for 2 days, I would have a really hard time accepting a contract from any other company right now. However, I have been working as an IT professional for about 7 years now. I work a cubicle job. I work a Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and I fucking hate it. I absolutely hate going to work. I hate my life. I have no passion. Well, I don't hate my life, but I hate my work life. I have no passion. It's not there. I just do it so I can get paid, and I'm pretty good at it. So if some wrestling company was to come around, MLW, WWE, Ring of Honor, TNA, Impact, and if any of these companies come and offer me a contract that pays me as good as my work pays me, I'm going to sign it, because if I do that, that allows me to do the thing I've always wanted to do my entire life, which is wrestling for a living. And I can start focusing more on YouTube. I can start focusing more on eating. It's just, Megabyte Ronnie can become my job. So, like, if anybody out there is listening and they run a wrestling company, I am here saying, I will send you my resume right now. Like, let's just get this ball rolling and start making some money, because I feel like I can make one of these companies a lot of money.
I think you should talk to FSW, the Future Stars of Wrestling, and they are amazing. It's a Vegas promotion, and let's just say that, there are pay-per-views and there are independent shows. Their pay-per-views are like actual WWE pay-per-views. They're called Mechas. They're amazing. Definitely check that out. I just like promoting FSW because it's one of my favorite companies, and so much amazing talent comes from there. But I do love how I said New Japan. I said New Japan would be the best pick for you, and apparently in Reddit you said the same thing, and that's really cool. And I do like that, including AEW doing their Dark that you were part of. Impact does Explosion. New Japan started their new thing on Friday nights, New Japan Strong, New Japan Struggle, one of those two. And there's just so much U.S. talent that's going around right now. And I really do hope to see, you spread your resume out, and hopefully, I'll see you on TV soon enough, more and more.
I would hope so. I just put a tweet out today. I am past my 14-day isolation mandatory thing for going to Florida. I tested negative for COVID twice, and I'm pretty much just looking for reps. Like, I just want to wrestle anywhere. I absolutely love this. I've never loved nothing more than wrestling in my life. It's my absolute passion. I think a lot of people get it twisted. They think when they hear a competitive eater showing up, they think I'm a competitive eater who's just here for some sort of rub or something like that. I am not a competitive eater who is a professional wrestler. I am a professional wrestler who is a competitive eater. So, let's not get it twisted. This is absolutely my number one passion. If you told me that I can never do a competitive eating contest again to be a wrestler, it wouldn't take me but half a second to say okay. So this is absolutely the number one thing in my life, and I just want to keep doing it as much as I can.
That's awesome. That's awesome to hear. How can, people who are listening, how can I support you in any way? How can we follow you on your platforms? How could we buy your merch? How could we spread the word on social media? What would you want us to do, the supporters, the fans who want to see you follow your dreams, who want to see you make your dreams reality? How do we do that?
The absolute number one thing you can do is do not stop tweeting that you want to see me on whatever company. If you want to see me on AEW, if you want to see me on Impact, if you want to see me on Ring of Honor, MLW, WWE, if you want to see me at any of these places, keep bombarding them with mentions, with my name. And eventually that stuff works out, because they see all these fans that want to see a particular wrestler, and just eventually it works out. If you want to follow me, you can follow me on Twitter at Megabyte Ronnie. You can follow me on Instagram. I don't do a whole lot on Instagram. I should probably do more. I'm not a big social media guy, but I'm becoming one. I'm trying to respond to everybody who sends me anything as fast as I can. I love interacting with fans. It's so weird because I didn't have fans 2 weeks ago, but now I have fans. So I'm interacting with you guys, and I absolutely love it. So just follow me at Megabyte Ronnie on Instagram. And if you want to watch my eating videos, you can go to youtube.com/Megabyte Ronnie. I have a couple wrestling videos up there. I do a diet soda review series with my buddy Puff called The Beverage Barons. I think that's real entertaining. And yeah, just keep interacting with me and just keep mentioning me to these companies because, like, you know, unfortunately, I'm 31 years old. Only got so much time before I have to hang him up. So I'm just trying to make everything happen as fast as I can. And you guys helping me has been tremendous. I could not have ever imagined having all this support before I went into dark, you know, and after that match, I'm blown away by all the support I have. And thank you to everybody out there who's helped me so far.
Awesome. And is there any merch that we can purchase? Is there any
Yeah, I have some shirts at prowrestlingtees.com/Megabyte Ronnie. See, that's how you know I'm real and I'm not in this for the money. I didn't push my merch store at the start of that, right? Yeah, I got some T-shirts. Check them out. You know, don't break the bank trying to buy one of my T-shirts. I'm okay financially, but if you do want to get a T-shirt to support me, that's great. But don't think that you have to give me money to support me. Just, you know, throw me a tweet. Ask me how I'm doing, or say you like my mustache, or tell me I'm ugly. Do whatever you want to do. Just keep adding me and keep mentioning me, I guess.
That's awesome. All right. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. We'll see you guys next time.